Well, as I mentioned in my last video, there certainly were some anomalies in getting this latest wave of vintage collection action figures. But after a 7-day trip from Southern California to here in Western Montana, I finally got them in hand, so we're going to take a look at them. Let's get into this. All right, welcome to another episode of Paul's Collectibles. It's good to have you. Thanks for joining me as always. And today we're going to be looking at an entire case of 3 3/4 inch vintage collection Star Wars action figures. Now, most people consider me to be the helmet guy, but I also collect the vintage collection. And here in the last few months, I've had a little extra time on my hands due to a bunch of life circumstances. So we're actually going to take a look at these on camera. I'm breaking from tradition here. This is an interesting wave of figures. It came in from Entertainment Earth, and if you saw my last video, you saw there were some weird anomalies with whether or not the case was coming or wasn't coming and all of that. Go back and check that one out. Subsequently, I also looked at the Dr. Evazan figure. So he's in this case, but we're going to skip right over him. So if you're interested in seeing him in addition to this case, just check out my last video. But without further ado, let's get these in front of some lights and see what I'm going to be adding to my vintage collection action figure collection today. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about an anomaly with this case that has changed since the last cases. This is normally what they look like here. They're tall and they have the 6 figures stacked inside height-wise. But apparently, and I'd seen this with other collectors' videos, they've gone to this horizontal size type case as well. So I'm guessing the figures are down in there by the side, which means you're going to have more finger room to pull them out, I'm assuming, which should theoretically cause less damage and things like that, but we're going to find out. Also, if you look at this one down here, it says carton 330 of 500, and that might have been what some of the problems were with this case, because look at this. This is carton 160 of 375, so theoretically, they made 125 less cases of this wave of action figures. Maybe that was the problem. If somebody else knows different about those numbers, then let me know. Okay, so let's see what just the deal is here. See, it looks like the tape is on the top here. So if we cut this open, when we pop this thing open, you can see that that is in fact what's going on here. They've got them in there side loaded. That's interesting. Okay, let's get these out and take a look at them. All right, we're out of the box, and as I mentioned earlier, I already talked about Dr. Evazan in a previous video because they sent me one single before the case was announced, so we're just going to get rid of him and move on to the next ones. And that's the case assortment, and we're going to do what I call a worst to first, my least favorite to my absolute favorite in this case, starting with Chopper in Imperial disguise. All right, so we got Chopper in Imperial disguise from Star Wars Rebels, got the powder blue name pill and the powder blue figure back. Card is, looks like a screen grab from the animated series. A little dark, a little unimpressive. The only good thing about this, if you ask me, is that there's some Snowtroopers in there, and that's always a way to improve something. Well, let's take a closer look at the figure. And as you can see, that's just a repack of Chopper. I think it even has that same accessory in the top left area of the previous Chopper that we got, except for now he's black and red, and this is another one of those what I call phoning it in figures. Hey, we have the mold and we know he looked different in one of the shows, so let's just repaint it and throw it on a new card and call it good. So, you know, the TVC is a little notorious for that. And Chopper is VC 350. Next up is Aurra Singh from the Phantom Menace, green name pill, green figure back. That's a good card. That's how you do a card for a figure. You can see a good portion of her. It's well lit. She's got a cool pose, staring at the camera, looking like she's ready for bear. Now, in my opinion, that's how you do a card for these figures. Let's get a better look at that figure. And if I'm not mistaken, she is a repack, and I don't know if they changed the figure any. I don't have the first one, so you'll have to forgive me. Luckily, this is just an overview, but wow, the detail on this is really good. Her hair, her antenna sticking out of the top of her head, the detail on her clothing, the detail around her belt. Look at the long spindly fingers. She comes with 2 pistols. She's got the long rifle back there, if you can see it. Yeah, that's just really well done. The face is spot on, if you ask me, and especially at this scale. I mean, this is the kind of detail you'd expect from like a Black Series figure or something, but look at that. And if they did improve the figure, good for them. But if this is as good as the original and they just put the figure right back in here, then God bless them, because man, they did a good job on that first one for sure. And I was accurate. Aurra Singh is VC73, meaning she's from the original TVC line a while back. All right, now we're getting into the good ones, if you ask me. Now, if you are a Clint Eastwood fan or any of his Dirty Harry movies, you gotta love this one, Lieutenant Callahan. I mean, am I right? Come on, Lieutenant Callahan. Everybody gets that? Or am I just too old? Anyway, when I saw this figure, I just had to have it. She's got the yellow name pill. She's got the yellow figure back from Star Wars Ahsoka. Right at the beginning of this series, we saw her in that ship chasing down, what was it, Sabine Wren on her speeder, because she was supposed to be someone. And we've already got this officer's speeder, so now she can go with the speeder and the droid to make a whole set up there if you'd like. Let's get a better look at that figure. But really quick, actually, the card. That's not bad. That's what we saw in the TV series, and she never got out or had anything else to do except for fly around. So if you're going to get one, a screen grab, of course, I think that's the way to do it. I mean, she's kind of looking at the camera. You see a good view of her face and of her helmet, and it just looks good. So, and you can actually see the ship in the back on there, which I think is kind of cool too. So good job on the card back as well. Okay, for some reason, and I'm not normally an X-Wing pilot type of person, I just really love this blue and white look on this figure. The helmet is just spectacular. The detail is ridiculous. It's so intricate. It's so well painted. It's so tiny. These figures are so tiny, but they did an excellent job on it. It perfectly matches what we see on the screen. And with the X-Wing pilots, it's cool that they gave her a removable helmet, because when it goes on her head, it's going to look really big, but they look really big on screen anyway, as opposed to like when the clone troopers get the helmets that come off. You put them on there and it's like way too big for what we see on screen. So, but once again, excellent detail. I don't know if this is a bunch of reuse and repaints. I don't have a lot of the X-Wing pilot helmets, or the X-Wing pilot figures from other media, just the Luke one, I think. But this looks mostly like some new stuff on her, at least the vest and some of the cords coming down. I'm sure someone can correct me on that. But she just comes with the pistol and her helmet and those white boots. But another good-looking figure in the line, and I'm actually really excited to have this one, Lieutenant Callahan. Do you feel lucky, punk? That's just never going to get old, man. Anyway, and Lieutenant Callahan is VC 351. Okay, if you've even spent 5 minutes on my channel, you'll know this was going to be my favorite. I'm a huge trooper guy. This is way overdue in the vintage collection, and that is the Imperial Snowtrooper Hoth battle gear. Now, that's not accurate if you ask me. Now, someone can correct me as well, and I haven't seen any other videos on this, but I think this should say Imperial Stormtrooper Hoth battle gear, because Imperial Snowtrooper Hoth battle gear is redundant. Am I crazy? Yeah, I'm probably crazy. But anyway, I think it's redundant. It should say Imperial Stormtrooper in Hoth battle gear, or Imperial Snowtrooper and leave out the bottom. But that's just me. Talking about nitpicking, because wow, look at this card. Love it. I can't remember if this is the same card from way back in the day, the ones that came out in 1980, but it might be. But anyway, look at that. A full look at the entire figure, got his gun up, ready to go, looking towards the camera. That's how you do a card. Hoth was all white, so there's not a lot of color in there, but you don't need it. Looks great. Let's see how they did on the figure. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you, it's really difficult for me to be objective on these Stormtrooper figures, and I love this thing. Look at this. He's got, with the hood down, the way it flares out at the bottom, he's got a little bit of a Cobra Commander look. You remember when Cobra Commander used to wear that long hood thing and it would flare out to the bottom like that? But otherwise, it looks really good. The armor, intricately painted. I love how they have the slightly different colors for what would be the cloth goods on him as opposed to his armor. His armor is stark white, but the pouches and his skirt and his pants, and of course the boots, they're all different colors of tan, which I think is accurate, and it looks really good. And he's got the standard, I think that's the E11 blaster. Yeah, it looks like a standard E11 blaster they give all the Stormtroopers. And back here, he's got his backpack on with some rations and rebreather system and a heater in there, as I understand it. But that's just absolutely stunning. I love it. It's beautiful. It's overdue. And I'm glad that finally they gave us two instead of just one. I hate it when they do that with the army builder figures, especially the troopers, where they give you one and then they give you 3 Anakins. Like, I don't need 3. But anyway, love it. Good to have. And the Imperial Stormtrooper in Hoth battle gear is VC 349. But there you have it, the latest wave of vintage collection action figures. Just a quick overview to give you an idea what they look like and what you'd be getting if you pick this up. We went through a little rigmarole getting them, but I'm glad to see that they're here. And finally, the Imperial Snowtrooper, as I mentioned. That's going to be my absolute favorite. But finally, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, maybe consider doing that for me. That's a great way to support my efforts here at Paul's Collectibles. And if you're already a subscriber or someone who's been watching my videos for a really long time, you already know. I greatly appreciate you. And with that, I'll see you on the next video.